Welcome to the Box Score, the last football edition. Terry Collins along with Murphy Fair. And Murphy, you'll be exiting stage left after today's show.
I might be in the hallway, though. You better be on your best behavior, okay?
That's good.
It's been a fun 15 weeks. It really has. It's put me closer to the communities of the Upper Cumberland, and I've thoroughly enjoyed it. I can remember years ago when it was rare for anybody from the Upper Cumberland to go to the postseason, you know, and that's turned around. And, you know, last year, all 5 schools that we covered were in the playoffs.
Which the second round?
Yeah, not only in it, they won the first round game. So it's come a long ways, and I think it's only going to get better in the future.
Well, Murph, you and I have known each other for a long time. This is our second year to do the show, and what an honor it is for us to have you. I know have to make a little bit of drive from over to Reedyville here to Alexandria for us to do the show, but our thanks, your knowledge with high school sports, football-wise, is just it's innumerable.
Well, I appreciate you saying that. When I get the helicopter fixed, it'll be a whole lot quicker ride over here than it was
no
this
doubt.
year.
Let's go ahead and look at some games. East Nashville at Smith County. East Nashville ends the Owls season 40-27, and of course, the Owls played without Peyton Hicks. They're looking at their KFC, Taco Bell, Gordonsville, and Smithville stats. And the one that jumps out, Murphy, is 11 of 13, 220 yards for Zach Beard. Just had a tremendous night.
No, it just wasn't meant to be. You know, we've seen a lot of football games over the years, and when 2 teams are pretty evenly matched, for one of them to beat the other one twice in the same season rarely happens. You know, just ask the people at Watertown, the issues they had with Trousdale County for the last several years, and it's just tough. But I know these kids will be back, a goodly number of them, and Smith County, especially at the 2A level, they're going to be a major force next year. I really think so.
Breaks a 10-game losing streak for the Owls. They finished the season 11-2, reaching the quarterfinals. Matt Dyer in his second year. As you look at the stats, 263 rushing, 295 overall, 220, and then 127 on the ground for 347 for the Eagles. The Owls were marching. Murphy had it down at their 20 and had a 3rd and 4, but couldn't get the first down. They're late in the third quarter, down by 5 points. And then East Nashville, a back-breaking 7.5-minute drive where they drive the length of the field, get the score to go up to 2 touchdowns.
Yeah, you've got to give some kudos to Smith County's offense. 263 yards on the ground. There won't be a lot of teams do that against East Nashville, but the passing game just kind of killed them. And it shows up in the totals there. Looking
at the individual stats, Zach Beard, an outstanding night. He was 6 for 6 in the first half. He wound up 11 for 13 for 220 yards. Also 13 rushes for 39 yards. He had 3 passing touchdowns, 2 rushing touchdowns. Trey Joyner, once again, as he was in the final game of the regular season, big for them. 7 receptions, 159 yards, a couple of scores. Of course, one of those pretty acrobatic, very lucky. Ball was tipped about 5-6 times, and he comes out with it, goes the distance. Traquan Waters, 18 rushes, 96 yards and a touchdown. For the Owls, the freshman Caden Powell concludes his freshman year just shy of 1,000 yards rushing, just shy of 1,000 yards passing. He had 32 yards passing, 163 yards rushing, scored all 4 Owl touchdowns. Bryce Curry, 15 carries for 96 yards, and it's been special to watch the Owls play this year, Murph.
Yeah, and a lot of those guys that brought fans to their feet numerous times on Friday nights will be back again next fall, and I'm very anxious, probably as anxious as I've ever been over a football team at the end of the season, wait till next year kind of thing. It's going to be fun to follow the black and gold.
Well, next one we're going to show you is a shocker. I know to Murph and myself when I talked to him on Saturday, Clay County, a one-sided victory in Salina, 41-6. Joseph Markham, 10 rushes, 200 yards, 3 touchdowns. First time he touched it, he goes 81 yards for the score after Gordonsville had it to open and kick off, and Clay County stopped him. Keaton Harms, 6 for 8, 93 yards, 10 carries for 41 yards, 3 touchdowns. Murphy, Clay County in the semifinals for the second time ever. Of course, Bruce Lamb, the head coach, Michael Dickerson, former Owl coach, the defensive coordinator, Jimmy Maynard, former Owl coach, the offensive coordinator, and Coach Maynard is now 16-0 against the Gordonsville Tigers.
I knew you were going to let us know about that because you've mentioned it a couple of times, but Jimmy and Mike both, Killer as I know him,
Right.
Killer Dickerson, obviously were very well prepared. They knew what to expect and did a good job. I'd love to see the tape on that game because I had a feeling Clay County might win, but I thought the game would be much, much closer than that and maybe even another overtime affair. But Clay County obviously came very well prepared and executed extremely well.
For the Tigers, Matthew Albritton concludes his senior campaign, 14 of 22, 153 yards, 36 yards also on the ground. Bryson Greer, 13 carries, 72 yards. Brady Gentry, 3 receptions for 49 yards. But I don't think anybody, if you're a Bulldog fan or a Tiger fan, everybody thought this would be close. It was a 7-point game, the last game of the regular season, but we had a running clock there in the second half in this football game, which I would have never imagined for either squad.
I think, well, it's kind of a no-brainer. I think Clay County will be in the Blue Cross Bowl this year. They're going to have to go up against Cofield, very good football team, but Gordonsville handled them very well during the regular season. And obviously last Friday night, Clay County manhandled Gordonsville.
Of course, 85, the last time that Clay County went to the state semifinals, the only other time that they have. Of course, Gordonsville has won the state championship before, and they had aspirations, Murphy, of making that level again. But Stephen Jackson, in his first year, I think he's laid the stepping stones. He's got a tremendous amount of players out. And I know they lose a lot of quality seniors, Murphy, but I really think with their numbers that you hear from the Tigers. Of course, they're in a 4-team region now with Red Ball and Pickett and Clay. So, Clay loses, I know, 7, 8, 9 seniors off that team. So, next year, no doubt, if we had a Murphy Fair book, I think Gordonsville would be the odds-on pick to win that region next year.
And a lot more games than just regional games. It'll be interesting to see what their full schedule will be like, and we'll talk about that a little bit later in the show. But that bottom bracket is loaded for bear. I'm telling you, I was a little surprised at McKenzie beating Fayetteville the way they did. But the two teams that came out of that one, McKenzie and MASC out of Memphis, I think that'll be a war. And both of those teams are loaded with athletic ability and speed. So it'll be an interesting battle next week in Chattanooga.
Definitely will be. We'll look at other quarterfinal scores and talk about the semifinal round of the TSSAA playoffs when we return to the box score, brought to you by Blackman Realty and the Josh Kirby team.
There's no shortage of real estate companies out there, but there's only one Blackwell Realty and Auction. The Kirby team with Blackwell Realty and Auction has the knowledge and the experience necessary to help you. They understand that real estate sales happen because of the hours of work they put into every sale, whether representing you as the buyer, the seller, or both. Get started today the Kirby way. The Kirby team with Blackwell Realty and Auction. Call them today or visit blackwellrealtyandauction.com.
If you're a commercial driver looking for a company to call home, Huff and Puff Trucking is the company for you. Our employees are professional and dedicated individuals that take pride in what they do. We offer an outstanding pay package with a dispatch structure that maximizes your home time. To learn more about a company that knows you by name and treats you like family, call us at 1-800-965-5033 or visit our website at huffpufftrucking.com.
2 delicious options, 2 convenient locations. So make the entire family happy with just one stop to KFC Taco Bell. Located at 501 Gordonsville Highway in Gordonsville and 105 East Broad Street in Smithville, we've got you covered at KFC Taco Bell, no matter the food craving. So what are you waiting for? Go ahead, get in the car and kick that hunger to the curb with a quick visit to KFC Taco Bell. Located in Gordonsville and Smithville. Stop by today.
Neighbors help each other. It's how community works. And it's how we do business at DTC. You can count on us for internet, TV, and phone, backed by local support.
For a limited time, get 1 month free when you add or upgrade your internet package. Enjoy internet speed that can keep up with all you do.
DTC. We're working hard to be a good neighbor.
Welcome back to the Box Score, final edition of the football section of it. And we're going to get Murphy's expertise here in a minute, and we're probably going to make him go out on a limb and not only pick the semifinal winners, we're going to make him pick the eventual champion too, Murphy.
No, we're going way into the future here, okay?
Get your crystal ball out, Murphy.
There we go.
So, anyway, let's go ahead and look at the Sonic of Carthage Class 1A scores. Coalfield over Oliver Springs. Of course, they'll go to Clay County now. McKenzie in a tight one over Fayetteville, 20-18. In the MASC, another tight one over Peabody, Murphy. And now McKenzie, I think, has to travel to MASC. But two awfully close ball games. That Coalfield and Oliver Springs, I thought it would be one-sided, but not hardly that much.
That's a pretty wide margin right there. I'm kind of like you on that one, Terry. Coalfield, obviously, a team that's been to the Blue Cross Bowl in the past. Unfortunately, all those games were with Keith Henry, who's no longer with us anymore, and I really miss that guy a lot. He was probably the very first COVID victim as far as people I know.
Right.
And that one hurt a lot. He was a good person.
Class 2A Sonic of Carthage scores. We got York over Monterey in Jamestown, 35-21. Tyner over East Robertson, 35-7. Riverside over Lewis County. Huntington over Union City. Murphy, I wasn't surprised that Tyner beat East Robertson, but I was surprised that was that one-sided with the game being in Cross Plains.
I've talked to their head coach, the one at Tyner, a couple of times in person, and he's having the time of his life. He was at Ottawa for 2 or 3 years, maybe 4, before getting the Tyner job, and didn't fare very well at all there. Didn't win more than 2 or 3 games a year, I don't think. The one thing that surprises me up there is York Institute. Have you talked to anyone that they must be loaded for bear, and because they're playing awfully well and have all season long.
They are, and they've not played when you're going to East Tennessee. Gary Clark, the voice of WDEB and the Dragons.
Right.
I've talked to him 2 or 3 times. He says we hadn't played that great a schedule. Monterey's got a good team. Of course, York's sitting there with 4 losses. One of those to Clay County, a team that's still alive. He said, but our team has gotten a little bit better every week. And he said that's the thing about it. And he says, in playing some pretty good non-region people, although they did win that region, they played some good non-region teams that they suffered losses in, but he felt like that they improved with that. Coalfield at Clay County, all these games on Friday night. McKenzie at MASC, should be 2 great ball games there.
I agree.
York at Tyner and Riverside at Huntington.
I think all 4 of those games have a chance to be really, really good. I think those games are going to be ones that I really want to see in Chattanooga.
Well, talking to Gary Clark, he said that they went to Tyner either last year, I believe it was. He said it was a boat race. He said they just have way too much speed, and he really feels that York is going to have 3 or 4 turnovers and some things go their way, and them play a perfect football game for them to even make that game close.
I would say that's a safe bet.
Let's go ahead and look at some Sonic of Carthage Class 3A scores. Alcoa Big over Gatlinburg-Pittman. Giles County over Sweetwater, and Covington over Dyersburg.
That'll be a long trip for Alcoa to make, probably the longest trip they've had to make in the playoffs in quite some time. It's a pretty good haul from Alcoa to Giles County, but it'll be worth it. I think as good as Giles County is, I think Alcoa should be able to handle them pretty well, and I think whoever comes out the winner of that particular ball game, I think is our next 3A state champion.
Covington East Nashville, that other game. As we'll go ahead and look at the Class 4A Sonic of Carthage scores. Anderson County Big over Greenville. That's a little wider margin than I was expecting.
Me too.
Red Bank over East Hamilton, Pearl Cone over Lexington, and Haywood Big over Milan.
I'm going to Red Bank Friday night. Ought to be a dandy of a game. I think Anderson County is undefeated. They beat Greenville last week rather convincingly. It was 21-7 the first time I checked scores. And Anderson County has had to deal with Greenville and Elizabethton. I think the last 4 years, maybe 5 years in a row, they beat Elizabethton twice during the once in the regular season and once in the playoffs. And I think Davey Gillum may very well have all the components he needs to get to the Blue Cross Bowl this year.
Murphy, I know that there's a lot of good teams left, but they are so battle tested when they come out of Upper East Tennessee because of Elizabethton and Green, some really quality programs up there.
I agree. And the teams from, I say West Tennessee, Pearl Cone's a long way from West Tennessee in my mind, but that's the way the brackets were drawn. Pearl Cone has just hammered pretty much anybody they played this year. Haywood, I think, is undefeated. And to beat Milan by 50 points, that says an awful lot.
Let's go ahead and look at the semifinals. Alcoa out Giles County. That's Alcoa all the way to Pulaski, and then East Nashville making the long trip to Covington, Red Bank and Anderson County in 4A, and then Pearl Cone at Haywood. That bottom game, Murphy, not that any of the rest of them won't be good games, but I think that could be a classic.
I think so. Haywood's got a lot of talent on this football team, some guys who have already committed to play at Power 5 schools. And I think their coach, Chris Smith, he's still a young pup in my mind. I think he's learned a lot the last couple of years or so, in particular going to the Blue Cross Bowl and coming away with a silver trophy. He wants that gold one badly, and I think that'll be a dandy of a ball game.
Of course, in 3A, Alcoa and East Nashville met in last year's championship game.
Right. I just hope that East Nashville doesn't set the turf on fire again like they did last year.
For sure. Let's go ahead and look at the quarterfinal scores out of Class 5A. Sonica Carthage scores: Knoxville West over Daniel Boone, Powell over Oak Ridge, Page over Nolensville, and Henry County over Springfield. Page, we said that's going to be a very tight ball game. We thought one score either way. Of course, that was a one-score game in Nolensville's favor when they played at Page in the regular. No, they played at Nolensville in the regular season. Nolensville
it was an overtime game too.
It went to overtime. I did get to see that game on TV. But then Henry County, Murphy, year in, year out, counts and that bunch out there. And, if you've never been to a home football game at Henry County, Murphy Fair permitted me that opportunity one time. It was like a college tailgate. One of the best times I guess I've ever had before a ball game ever started. It was like going to a college pregame or a NFL Titans pregame.
They could have fed 1,000 people with all the food that was there.
Exactly right.
Tailgaters
exactly
brought with them, and they were set up in stations. One had ham, one had turkey, one had beef, and several different variations of all of those. You could eat until you got sick if you wanted to.
I felt like a rock star with you that day for sure.
Knoxville West up at the top there could very well be the best team in Tennessee. We don't hear a lot about them, but they have destroyed everybody they lined up against, and everyone in Knoxville says it's a given that they'll beat Powell and probably win a gold trophy this year.
Class 6A, Sonica Carthage scores: Maryville over Science Hill, Oakland over Blackman, Beach over Cane Ridge, and Bartlett over Germantown. And guess what? Maryville and Oakland's playing again in the semis, Murphy.
Yeah, this time it's going to be in Murfreesboro.
That's right.
I was going to say I think it's a local game, and that'll be interesting too. The Oakland Blackman game I think was a lot closer to that. I listened to a good bit of it on the radio coming home from Nolensville last week, and it was just nip and tuck all the way through in the second half. But at the end, Oakland prevailed. That other game, Beach and Bartlett, that one's going to be played in Memphis, and that'll be a good one too. Anthony Crabtree does such a great job. They're dropping back to the 5A ranks, and I think a lot of 6A teams are happy to see that happen.
Right. Knoxville West undefeated at Powell, Page at Henry County, should be a great one there. Maryville at Oakland, Beach at Bartlett. You think Maryville's down, but they're a team that's dangerous in postseason.
Oh, they are. They've lost 3 games, I think, this year. One of those to Alcoa. And what a great way for Brian Nix to start his head coaching career with a win over Alcoa in his first season at the helm of the Tornado program. All 4 of those games, I think, have got a chance to be close. I think the one that may have the biggest difference is the Maryville-Oakland game.
Right. We'll announce the DTC Player of the Year and the All-Star teams when we return to the box score, brought to you by Blackwell Realty and the Josh Kirby team.
There's no shortage of real estate companies out there, but there's only one Blackwell Realty and Auction. The Kirby team with Blackwell Realty and Auction has the knowledge and the experience necessary to help you. They understand that real estate sales happen because of the hours of work they put into every sale, whether representing you as the buyer, the seller, or both. Get started today the Kirby way. The Kirby team with Blackwell Realty and Auction. Call them today or visit blackwellrealtyandauction.com.
Opioid overdoses continue to claim lives in Tennessee. Naloxone, an opioid reversal drug, can save lives. Call the Smith County Drug Prevention Coalition for a free, quick, and confidential training. Also, if you are struggling with substance use disorder due to your alcohol and drug use, help is only a phone call away. Call the Tennessee Red Line. This project is funded under a grant contract with the Tennessee Department of Mental Health and Substance Abuse Services.
Nearstar Middle Tennessee Mines in Gordonsville is hiring. We have open positions for master, certified, and experienced heavy-duty maintenance techs, maintenance supervisor, entry-level and experienced miners and exploration infill drillers, grade operator, electricians, laboratory and metallurgical technician, senior metallurgist, and more. We offer competitive wages, excellent benefits, PTO, holiday pay, exceptional 401k, and lots more. Make the most of your future and your career. Join the excellent team at Nearstar Middle Tennessee Mines in Gordonsville.
Welcome back to the Box Score. Terry Collins and Murphy Fair. Justin Malden doing a great job for us as always. And Murphy, postseason accolades. It's our last football show. So we're going to announce our DTC Player of the Year. And when you look, Kobe Barnes, what an outstanding career he's had. And what an outstanding year he's had this year. Look at those stats. 2,073 rushing yards. And he was hurt a few of the games. Or at least not at 100%. 69 receiving yards, 21 total touchdowns, 16 tackles for loss, 2.5 sacks. The Region 4-4A offensive MVP, the same Region 4-4A that we've talked about all year, Murphy, that has 4 teams ranked in the top 10 in the state in 4A. And this is pretty amazing, too, with some of the outstanding running backs they've had through the years, a single season rushing record for DeKalb County High School.
That's a great honor for him, especially this year with the 5 teams that DTC covers on a regular basis. There was a stud or two on every team.
Right.
I mean, that produced some incredible numbers, and I know that had to be a difficult task for those who were involved in that process. But Colby, obviously, very well deserving. A great young man and a big part of the Tigers' success this year.
I'm a Smith County owl. Everybody knows that.
Who?
But I'll go ahead and say this. I was more impressed with that young man as any player that we faced this year, including Frank Gordon, who's a Class 3A
Mr. Football
finalist.
That's right.
I mean, when you're running against people like that, and he'll probably play on Saturday. I don't know that Kobe will get a Power 5 conference offer or whatever, but I'm talking about he is a football player and one that Coach Steve Trapp is sorely going to miss.
I know Coach Trapp's awfully proud of that young man and all the guys that wore the black and gold for the Smithville Club. Just an outstanding season, and if anybody is halfway, how can I word this? I just want to say accolades are due to Coach Trapp as well, because it hadn't been that long that you didn't count on DeKalb County making the playoffs.
Right.
And he has turned an average or maybe even a less than average football program into a contender. And I just wanted to say that Steve's one of my favorites, and he's doing a great job over there.
Let's look at All-Star team. Look at those players, Murphy, some outstanding young men. And yes, they've got a lot of talent, but there's a lot of off-season work that they have to go through to get stronger, get faster. Just congrats to all of these guys from all 5 of these teams.
They didn't know. None of the guys on that list right there know the meaning of the word quit.
Right.
They worked incredibly hard in the off-season, continued that work through the season, and it showed because there was some great success on all of those teams. And kudos to everyone who has a name on that board right now.
Well, and each of these players will tell you this. there's other players that help them achieve this. I'm sure Kobe Barnes would say the same thing at DeKalb, who was our player of the year. It takes a team to do that. 11 football players, on every play, doing their best. And, some of these are linemen that are unsung heroes. And, I'm glad that some linemen made it, just like those specialty people that we talk about with the stats each and every week.
Just like the military, the general is only as good as his lieutenants.
Right.
And in high school football, the quarterback, the running back, whoever you want to single out, they're only as good as the 10 guys that surround them.
Now let's look at those football regions and the schedules. Cannon County at Forest, which is Chapel Hill, and then home against Fayetteville at Cascade in Marion County. So 5 teams in Region 4-2A.
And these are also tentative. I talked to some folks at TSSAA today, and they said these things that you can find on the internet right now are very probable, but there could be some situations that come up that force one of those into a Thursday night game.
Right.
That's the primary reason TSSAA did all of the regional scheduling for teams from one end of the state to the other. We're at a major crossroads right now as far as officials for high school football games. And they just want to do their best to make sure that they got as many games covered as they can. And something that I thought was rather interesting, I noticed several teams in our area have already got their schedule completed for next year, and that's a huge plus for them, because they're going to make assignments based on first come, first serve, who got their schedule completed first. And could be a good thing, could be a bad thing, but it does give you an option of getting a more experienced officiating team for your game.
In talking to the people on the Board of Control and the Executive Board, Murphy, the thing that rings out with them, they really don't want to spill over into Saturday games. They'd rather keep them on Thursday and Friday. You may see more Thursday games next year than normal. And I think that's probably the best way to go. Of course, that's going to hurt your junior highs, because a lot of junior highs who used to only play on Tuesday play on Thursday now. That would move them back to Tuesday, but at least if they know that going in, they can go ahead and make that scheduling difference, because most of your junior high teams use your high school fields.
The one thing that bothers me about that is the fact that some of these regions are spread out 150 miles apart, right. Same teams. And to do that on a Friday night's one thing. Everybody can sleep in the next day. But if you play on Thursday night, you better be in the classroom first thing Friday morning. Right. And if you've been on a bus until 1 o'clock in the morning, that's going to be hard to handle.
That's true. Let's go ahead and look at DeKalb County and their region, 4-4A. Of course, they're adding White County. So a tough region, even got tougher. They've got Livingston and Atstone and Macon and Cumberland and at White County and at Upman. That's Murphy, that is a tremendously tough 6 games. It's tough for DeKalb right there.
Yeah, it is. A couple of teams that are struggling on that list, Livingston and Cumberland County. Those should be all but a guaranteed win. But you never know. That's why they play the games on Friday night. And one plus is the fact that Malachi, is it Dial? Is a senior and won't be back anymore. And White County will be operating under a new head football coach next year too. Coach Frazier has already announced his retirement. He wants to be a dad and be a family man a little bit more than he's been these last 4 years.
Let's look at Gordonsville. Of course, as we said, only 4 teams in Region 4-1A. They go 2 Joe Burns, 2 Red Boiling, and then against Clay County. So they've got to come up with 7 non-region games, Murph.
Well, that's going to be really tough, especially with a program that's had such great success over the last several years. They may have to do some serious traveling next fall.
Let's go ahead and look at Smith County Owls, Region 3-2A schedule. They've got Trousdale County at home. They've got them for the 2nd year in a row at home. Of course, Smith County won that one 53-8 a year ago. Then they go to East Robertson, travel up to Cross Plains, then to Jackson, Westmoreland at home, and Monterey at home.
Jackson probably is the only easy peasy team on that list. Monterey has done a great job. Coach Hughes up there has done a really good job turning that team into a pretty strong power on Friday nights at the 2A level. And with Smith County moving down, East Robertson obviously going to be a very good football program again, as will be Westmoreland.
Of course, York was a member of that when they broke these classifications out originally, Murphy, which made a 17 region, but they made an appeal to go to, I guess, back to Region 2A, and we're granted that. Of course, York will be playing in the semifinals at Tyner. Of course, it's a long way from Jamestown to Cross Plains.
It is, and seeing Monterey up there, I'd a whole lot rather, if I'm living in Carthage, I'd a whole lot rather go to Monterey than Jamestown.
That's for sure. That's just through there last Saturday night. Speaking of Watertown, let's look at their Region 4 3A schedule. Murphy, there's a lot of travel involved right there. You got to go from Watertown all the way to Dunlap. It's placed in Quatchie County on their turf. Then they've got Giles County at home. Then they've got Grundy County at home. And then they make the trip to Community High School over in Bedford County.
There's something wrong with Giles County and Grundy County being in the same region for a lot of reasons.
Right. But still, that's what Coach Gavin Webster and his Watertown team, of course, as they finalize the schedules, we'll delve into that a little bit later. There is a lot of tentative games right now until contracts are signed, Murphy. You know, like I do, it's not official.
Got to have that name on the dotted line, right?
That is for sure. Murphy, when you look overall at these 5 teams that we cover, it's going to have a different look. The only one that's similar, I guess, is the Gordonsville. You know, you're losing one team, you're only adding one team, but a lot of these others are going to be facing a lot of new teams. You take Smith County, a lot different. They don't have the 3 Nashville schools, Maplewood, Stratford, East Nashville, all gone. They're more back to the teams that they traditionally see. But still, you know, there's going to be great change for some of these teams and then not much for others.
People wonder, too, why in the world do these have to be this way? But in a state like Tennessee that's so far from each other, east-west, I'll still say we've got way too many classes.
Right.
And the more classes you have, the more you're going to have to travel to find schools with similar enrollments as yours. I think TSSAA, I've looked over a lot of schedules already over the last 2 or 3 weeks, and I think they've done a pretty good job of trying to keep teams from having to travel any farther than they have to.
Well, Murph, you know that it becomes very expensive for these teams to travel. And like you said, not only the expense of travel, your gates are not as big. If I'm going to have to drive 2 hours or 2 hours and 15 minutes to get to that game, yes, you've got some hardcore fans, but still your gates, you know, the closer these schools are together, the gates are going to be bigger.
If you're driving 4 hours round trip, you're going through a tank of gas more times than not, and that's going to run you $50 to $75.
Yeah.
Closer to $75, I'd say, for a lot of people.
Right. We'll take a look at this season's DTC Sports basketball schedule, which we'll really delve into next week.
Basketball.
And we'll get Murphy's picks for the semifinal games, which are coming up. As we remind you, you're watching The Box Score, brought to you by Blackwell Realty and the Josh Kirby team.
What is your emergency?
I think I'm being robbed.
Sir?
These big home security guys want way too much money from me.
Let's connect you to a local company right away.
It's a crime what big national companies charge for home security.
For just $49.99, get a system with a touch keypad, 3 window or door sensors, motion detector, key fob, and standard installation.
Help is on the way, sir.
Oh, thank you.
Switch now and save. Call or visit DTC Security online today.
Don't be fooled. Vaping is just another way to deliver nicotine to your lungs. Learn the facts and escape the vape. We get it. Quitting is hard, but getting help is easy. Call the Tennessee Tobacco Quit line at 1-800-QUIT-NOW for free counseling and cessation patches. Sign up for the free Tennessee Tobacco Quit line program and let us help you quit for good. This project is funded under a grant contract with the Tennessee Department of Mental Health and Substance Abuse Services.
Nearstar Middle Tennessee Mines in Gordonsville is hiring. We have open positions for master, certified, and experienced heavy-duty maintenance techs, maintenance supervisor, entry-level and experienced miners and exploration infill drillers, grade operator, electricians, laboratory and metallurgical technician, senior metallurgist, and more. We offer competitive wages, excellent benefits, PTO, holiday pay, exceptional 401k, and lots more. Make the most of your future and your career. Join the excellent team at Nearstar Middle Tennessee Mines in Gordonsville.
And welcome back to Lock Score for the final section, I guess you'd say, or final segment for football. And Murphy, it seems like it's flown by.
Well, it always does, and seems to go faster every year. And having this additional assignment each week has made it go even faster, I think. I've had a blast doing this, Terry, and hope we get to keep doing it again in the future.
I was going to say, the format, to me, us bantering back and forth, which we always enjoy doing.
We've been bantering for a long time.
Via the phone for several years. We now get to do it on TV, right?
We have.
Which has just been a great joy. Let's look at our DTC hoop schedule. We've got DeKalb County at Cannon County on November 22nd. Then we've got November 28th, Gordonsville at Watertown, and then Gordonsville at Smith County on Friday, December 2nd. And Murphy, that is the first home game for the Owls and Lady Owls.
How about that? That'll be interesting. You know, if Gordonsville and Smith County were still playing football right now, you reckon they could play that game in Chattanooga before kickoff?
At the Roundhouse? It's not far away from the Roundhouse, Murphy, to Finley Stadium, that's for sure.
No, it's not.
Then on Tuesday, December 6th, DeKalb County at Smith County. Friday, December 16th, Cannon at DeKalb. Friday, January 6th, Red Boiling Springs at Gordonsville. Tuesday, January the 10th, DeKalb at Watertown. Friday, January 13th, Watertown at Cannon. Then Friday, January 27th, Smith County at Cannon County. Then Monday, January 30th, Smith County at DeKalb. Friday, February 3rd, Cannon at Watertown. And Friday, February 10th, Eagleville at Gordonsville. And at least as far as the district tournament goes, that's going to be held in Carthage for the 4-team which is Watertown, Westmoreland, Cannon, and Smith County this year.
If you're watching this on TV, grab your cell phone and take a picture. That's what I did before we started this broadcast, because there's going to be some great games there, and just take a picture of it, and you'll have the schedule right there all season long.
Or just remember if you forget it, go to DTC3.com and get that information. But
easy
I know
for you to say.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. Can I mess that up any worse? But we want to thank Huff and Puff Trucking for sponsoring that, Murphy. And you know, when you look at all these teams and you know the exposure that they get from this, you know, it's fun to do these games because you see some great rivalries. You know, that first game right there, DeKalb at Cannon, that's always a big rival.
It really is, and two great programs with great history and a great rivalry history, if you will. Should be a good one. We will know the outcome of that by this coming Friday, won't we?
That's for sure. And then, of course, you can also go to DTC3 and see the replay times on all these games. They usually try to televise those 3 or 4 times. And, you know, I get an opportunity to go to some friends of mine's house and watch the replays on not only the Smith County or Gordonsville games, but all the teams that we cover, which is, you know, Watertown, Cannon, DeKalb, Smith, and Gordonsville. And it's fun to get to see that. A lot of times I'm at somebody's house having Christmas or Thanksgiving and look up, bang, there's a show on. So now, Murph, we're going to get the Swami hat out. We're going to make you pick Class 1A and 2A. Let's start Clay County hosting Coalfield.
I said earlier I thought Clay County would have that no trouble with that game whatsoever. Clay County pretty well manhandled Gordonsville a couple of times this season, and Gordonsville manhandled Coalfield. Right. So I think that's a no-brainer there.
All right, McKenzie and MASC.
That's going to be a tough one. The MASC is a pretty good football team. It's almost a mirror image of MAHS last year. It's the same coach, a lot of the same players. They closed MAHS, and all those athletes and the coaching staff went to MASC, and but they're going to have their hands full with McKenzie. McKenzie, a very good football team, and we'll just have to wait and see how that one works out.
All right, York at Tyner.
Tyner all the way. They've put a lot of points on the board this year, and I don't think York has seen that kind of speed all season long.
Right, Riverside at Huntington out in West Tennessee.
Oh, two great programs. Huntington has been to the title game. Riverside has not. They've won some state baseball and softball championships, but nothing on the gridiron. Boy, that's going to be a tough one to call. I think because it's on the turf at Huntington, that gives them a little bit of an edge. So I'm going to go with the Mustangs in that one.
All right, Murph, when we look at our 3A and our 4A picks, we're going to start Alcoa at Giles County, and Alcoa, what can you say? They've been dominant at 3A. They've won it however many years in a row. Gary Rankin no longer there, but his top assistant that was there even before Gary got there.
Right.
Brian took over for him and done. I know Alcoa. Anytime they beat Maryville this year, which is a feather in their cap, but when they lose a game, it's big news.
I agree. Brian is almost another Gary Rankin. He's been there so long and runs a football program just like Gary did. And I think Alcoa wins that one going away. Although they'll be facing some speed down in Pulaski for sure.
In that Giles County Stadium, it's like no other down.
It's beautiful. It's incredible. Really
East Nashville, the team that beat the Owls last week. Once again, this year, they played Dyersburg at East Nashville in the semis a year ago. I'm sorry, in the semis a year ago. They've got Covington at Covington this year.
If this was the East Nashville team that lost at Carthage the first time, I'd pick Covington. Right. But it's a totally different team than what we saw 3 or 4 weeks ago. And I think even though it's a long trip to Covington from Nashville, I think East Nashville's probably going to get another shot at a gold trophy.
Right. In the 4A semifinals, you've got Red Bank and Anderson County.
I know the head coaches of those two teams extremely well and think the world of both of them. They're both genuinely great people. Red Bank won a state championship beating Riverdale back 20 plus years ago. I was at that game. But I think this is a team of destiny in Anderson County High School, and I think they're going to pull it away. They put 21 points on the board against Greenville last week before Greenville knew what happened. And I just think this Maverick team is real.
Pearl-Cohn at Haywood.
That may be the best game on the board. Both of them are loaded with speed, loaded with talent, have great coaching on both sides. And I think because it's at home, I'm going to have to go with home team Haywood. But Pearl-Cohn's awfully dangerous, and if they get on a run, Haywood's going to have their hands full.
5A and 6A, Knox West at Powell.
West has beat everybody that they've lined up against, all takers. They beat a couple of good 6A teams as well. I think Knoxville West is for real and could very well win the whole thing at 5A.
Page at Henry County.
I'd like to root for Henry County, and I think they've probably got the talent to do that. But Page is extremely well coached as well. They've come from behind, and I think probably played a little tougher schedule. They've played a couple of 6A teams from there in Williamson County and done very well. But I got to go with Henry County. They're about due for another one.
Of course, Kevin Creasy in Oakland, we've already said big over Maryville, Beach at Bartlett.
The team whose school starts with a B will win that one, obviously. Bartlett's out of nowhere. I don't know that they've ever even been close to a championship game. Certainly Beach has, but I think Bartlett may be the team of destiny this year. I'm going to go with them.
Well, Murph, it's been a fun season for you and I, and we want to thank Justin. He's the one that does all the hard work each and every week.
Pushes all the right buttons all the time, doesn't he?
And it's been a pleasure for me to work with you, and we want to thank all our fine sponsors, Blackwell Realty and Auction and the Josh Kirby team for being our title sponsor, and I guess that'll put the wraps on it for football this year.
I think so. This is a great show, not because I'm involved in it, but it does allow the communities of the 5 schools that we cover that have so much in common. And it doesn't matter to me if you were 10-0 or 3-7. Right. They all get out and support their athletic teams, and that does my heart really good. Thank you, fans.
Definitely does. We want to thank all our fine sponsors, and for the final time, Murphy Fair, I'm Terry Collins. Thank you for watching the Box Score, brought to you by Blackwell Realty and the Kirby team.
Bye, y'all.